Okay, I had a quick question from a new customer about how to save toolpaths. Um, you have basically two different sides to VCarve. The design side, where you could do all of your design work, or you could import DXF, Adobe Illustrator, any number of different vendor type or JPEGs, and have it trace it. We're going to skip the design end. We're going to assume that we already have the design done that we want to toolpath. We want to toolpath it and then send it to the machine. So I'm going to delete this toolpath by hitting the right button, delete this, and I'm going to I want to cut this out using a small cutter so that I can get inside these small letters. And this is, I think, designed with 9.5-inch PVC. Just PVC trim that I'm going to cut for the IWF show. So I'm going to do a profile cut on the outside. I'm going to cut through the material plus 20 thousandths. I'm going to use an 1/8 inch cutter. I'm not going to do 26 passes. I'm going to play with that separately, but I'm going to do it outside the vectors here. I'll do a separate finishing pass, so I want it to oversize it by 20 thousandths. So it's going to overcut all of these passes by 20 thousandths off of this line, and then on the last pass it's going to come back in and the edge of the tool is going to be right on that line, and it's going to take away the witness lines of the multiple tool passes that we have here. So we're going to play with this. We don't obviously need 28 passes, but I'm going to just quickly work down. I'll add ramps, and the ramp should be roughly 3 times the diameter of the tool. This is only a 1/8 inch bit, so we'll go 0.4, 0.5, whatever. It's going to ramp down and then do its work. So that's all it needs to do. I'm going to do the profile. I like to name it a little differently. I would do it, it's jumping around here. Profile cutout with a 0.125 tool, and calculate. I haven't selected the vectors. Now I selected them, and calculate. It warns me that it's going to cut through, and it is, because I want it to just leave this sign that way. I'm going to hang this. This is going to be about 8 feet wide. I'm going to hang it at the IWF show. Don't care to render it. We just want to do the tool pathing for this video. So we're going to close this down. And this is the Save Toolpath icon. So we would click this, and it says that I'm going to toolpath is going to be saved. It's profile cutout 0.125. That's it. Now, how did we get there? We need to use the Yeti SmartBench post processor. And if we drop down, we can see that we have one specific for the Yeti. There's also, you could use the GRBL millimeter post processor, and that's going to put out a file name that we name it right here. That's where the asterisk is, .gcode. The console of the SmartBench is going to look for .gcode or .nc files. Anything else that you copy to the console, it's not going to show up on the directory listing. It's only looking for .gcode or .nc files. So how do we get that information? Well, we defined a machine. You could have multiple machines, and we just created and edited the machine. It's the Yeti SmartBench. I have upgraded from older versions of VCarvePRO, so my setup may be a little different than yours, and I understand that, but it's going to be this same basic process. The manufacturer's Yeti tool, again, the terms don't really matter. Whether it's Precision, Precision Pro, Standard, any of the other new models, they're all using the same G code, and that post is called GRBL. And basically, it's a 49.97 inch envelope that we can work with, and then I'm going to use that, and off we go. There is also a way to not have to look at all the post processors. If you open up the application data folder file, open an application data folder, you'll see all the post processors are saved here under post P. And if we click on this, you'll see just a ton of them. But we can just grab the one that we want, and that's the Yeti SmartBench, and we're going to copy it, and we're going to put it here under my post P. And whatever we have here will be shown, and you could have multiples. And I have a video if you want to look, and I think I did this on a BSE machine. This was for a particular customer that has 2 machines. He wanted to be able to pick just between the 2 machines depending on where he wanted to send his job. But he didn't want to drop down the list of the hundreds of post processors. So whatever post processors he has under this My Post P, it will just show those two machines when we go to send them out here. But if you only have one machine, just set it up for the Yeti SmartBench and be done with it. So at that point, we're going to save the toolpath. I like to save them to the job folder that job is in. So this is under Vetric, and then this is IWF 2022. And the way I name it, if we're going to send it to the SmartBench using Smart Transfer, which is Yeti's app that really is a very simplistic way of sending your G-code files over Wi-Fi to the console. I like to name it, YSB for Yeti SmartBench, IWF, and then profile cut out. YSB IWF for the job name, pocketing or whatever. Because if we just use the default file names that's based on what the operation was, this was a profile cutout, they'll all be stacked up together if I have them named a little differently. And I want to be able to, personally, I like to be able to create directories and put them onto the console and then put the individual folder G-code files under those folders. Well, with Smart Transfer, it's a very simple program. We don't have the ability to create folders yet. So it would just put the files there, and then once you use them, and once you cut them, get rid of them, take them off the console. And then anytime you're sending something to the machine, just send it out there and you're ready to go. So you don't need to have folders and hundreds of files on there. There's no sense in it, depending on how you like to organize your work. So it doesn't matter. This helps it name it by the job. This is Yeti SmartBench, IWF, and I could have this and then other stuff that I'm going to cut for the show. So we save it, and then it's got the file there. And then if we're going to run Smart Transfer, we would do start the app. I'm at my home office now, not at the shop, so it won't find the machine, but it will start the app, jump on your Wi-Fi, see if it recognizes a SmartBench there, and then you just drag the files to it, and they're at the console before you can get up out of the seat. You can still use FileZilla. If you want to look it up at YetiTool.com, you'll be able to see that, but right now it's scanning for the SmartBench, and it's not going to find it because don't have a SmartBench active here at the house. And I would just drag the file and drop it right here, and it'd be at the console before I can get up. You can still use FileZilla or any other remote transfer program. You can copy to a USB drive and bring it over. Whatever is your preference. But the question that a brand new customer had is, how do I get there? How do I select post processors and save it? So all good. And before I get away, let's show how to set up the Toolpaths. I copy files from all over. I change from English to metric, so I have no idea necessarily what a Toolpath, my tool database is going to look like, because I use test databases too. So this is said, let's take 26 passes. There's no need for that, so we're going to edit that. I can edit just the number of passes right here. Back up. If I just edit the number of passes, I can just tell it that was 3/4 material I'm doing. So let's say I want to do 7 passes. 7 1/8-inch deep passes. If I set that, basically it's 0.11. Well, 0.125 is an 1/8 inch. That's the diameter of the tool. Yeti has some published guides for cutting, and they would say use the radius of the tool. So they would be looking at more like 15 or 16 passes. But this is PVC, it melts, so I mean it cuts like butter. So personally, I would set it up, having tested it and know how it works. I'd do 7 passes, and it would knock out. But that's just changing the number of passes. Next time I use this tool to cut other things that's this thick, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to default back to what was in the tool database. So we can go over here and edit the tool database. Now this is editing it at the database level. We told it to only go 0.03 inches per pass for the depth. That's in the tool database. So I'm going to back up and show you where that is. So we're going to go to Toolpaths, tool database. That'll take a second to open up, and that was an 1/8 inch end mill. And there's the issue. It was only looking at 0.03 deep. Well, that's not much at all. So let's set it for 0.0625, so 1/16th, the radius of the bit. And then that's a nice safe bet, depending on the material. I can play with this and have it different depths of cut and step downs and things like that based on the material here, but I'm just going to leave it here. So I'm going to set it at 0.065. And the step over is based on 40% of the bit. That's fine if I was pocketing something out. So that's fine. So if I apply that, it'll save that to the database. And then if I were to select a different tool, I'm just going to select something. And that tool needs to be modified too. I don't need 11 passes with a 1/4 inch tool. So I'm going to select something again, and I'm still in acrylic, and I'll go grab that 1/8 inch, and there's a good setup using the radius of the bit. That's 13 passes. I know this is PVC. I can do this in 7 easily. I'll set the passes, and okay. So that's how we do it. There's plenty of videos on setting toolpaths and depths and doing your database, but that's, again, particularly to a certain customer that asked how to do it. You want to go into your database and set that up appropriately. Set it up by default for the radius of the bit for each of the depth of cuts. But just know, depending on the materials, you can do the radius of the bit. There are some customers that are using, they're playing with an 1/8 inch compression spiral, and they're cutting through 3/4 inch material. They're just slowing down their speeds, and they're getting great results, and it's cutting down their overall machine time. So there's all kinds of tooling strategies. That wasn't the point of this video. The point of this video was to show how to save it and get that output out. So thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call Eric Schiller, Yeti Tools Southeast, and you can go to my website, YetiSmartBench.com, and on YouTube, of course, look up Yeti Tools Southeast, and you'll see a bunch of training videos for you there. I look forward to working with you. I sell and service the Yeti SmartBench across North America. I've got customers in Mexico and the Cayman Islands, and we're going to start expanding a little further south as well. So thank you so much.